The clock reads 3:17 a.m. The studio is barely lit, just the soft glow from the mixing board and a single lamp in the corner. Outside, Los Angeles is silent. Inside, the air is thick with cigarette smoke, stale coffee, and something heavier exhaustion that's turned into irritation. Bonnie Raitt sits on a stool near the door, guitar across her lap, fingers resting on strings she hasn't touched in over an hour. Jackson Browne is at the piano, hunched forward, playing the same progression for what might be the 40th time. No one is counting anymore. The engineer stops, suggesting takes around midnight. No, he just sits there, arms folded, staring at the tape reels like they might start moving on their own. This session was supposed to end 6 hours ago. It's 1973. Bonnie is 23, just starting to build something real. She's got a voice people remember, a slide guitar style that doesn't sound like anyone else, and a work ethic that makes grown men in the industry nervous. She's not here because she's famous. She's here because Jackson asked. He's a few years older, already respected, already the kind of songwriter people whisper about in green rooms and back hallways. When he calls, people show up. She showed up, but now, sitting in this room that smells like sweat and wood polish, she's starting to wonder if that was a mistake. Jackson plays the same 4 chords again, stops, starts over. His face doesn't change. He's somewhere else, chasing something no one else can hear. Bonnie shifts her weight. Her back aches. Her fingers are sore. She hasn't sung a full take in 2 hours because every time she starts, he stops her. Not rudely, not even impatiently. Just stops, says something like, "Hold on, let me try this," and goes back to the piano. She doesn't say anything. Not yet. The engineer glances at her. She catches it. He looks away. Jackson isn't trying to hurt anyone. That's the thing people don't understand about moments like this. He's not cruel. He's not angry. He's not even aware, really, that anyone else is still in the room. He's inside the song, turning it over and over, looking for the thing that makes it true. For him, this is what the work requires: obsession, refusal to settle, the willingness to stay inside discomfort until something breaks open. But Bonnie isn't inside the song anymore. She's inside the room. And the room has become a cage. She watches him play, watches his shoulders, the way his head tilts when he listens to the chord fade. She knows that look. She's had that look herself, alone in a room with a guitar and a half-finished lyric that won't let her sleep. But this isn't her song, and she's not alone. She's waiting, and waiting has started to feel like disappearing. Jackson stops again, looks at the keys. One more time, he says, not to her, not to the engineer, just out loud. Bonnie sets the guitar down carefully, stands up. The stool scrapes against the floor. Jackson doesn't look up. She walks toward the door slowly. Her boots make soft sounds on the carpet. She's giving him time. Time to notice. Time to say something. Time to remember she's been here since 9 p.m., and it's now past 3 in the morning, and she hasn't eaten, and her throat is dry, and her patience, which has always been her strength, is gone. He doesn't look up. She reaches the door, puts her hand on the frame, stops. Waits. Still nothing. She walks out. The door closes behind her with a soft click. Not a slam, not a statement, just a closing. Inside, the engineer finally moves. He looks at Jackson. Jackson is still staring at the piano. The engineer opens his mouth, then closes it. He doesn't know what to say. Doesn't know if saying anything will make it worse, so he just sits there, watching a man who doesn't yet realize he's alone. Bonnie stands in the hallway outside the studio. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead. Her hands are shaking, but not from anger, from something deeper, something closer to grief. She leans against the wall, closes her eyes, and tries to breathe. She doesn't want to be the person who walks out. She's not a quitter. She's not fragile. She's survived worse than a long session with a distracted songwriter. But this isn't about survival. It's about something more delicate. Respect, presence, the quiet understanding that the people in the room with you are not instruments. They are not extensions of your vision. They are human beings with limits, with needs, with their own music inside them. And tonight, in that room, she stopped being a person. She became a tool, a voice Jackson could use when he was ready, a presence he could ignore when he wasn't. She didn't walk out because she was angry. She walked out because staying would have meant agreeing that this is how it works, that this is what collaboration looks like. That being in the room is the same thing as being seen. Upstairs, in the small lounge area, she sits on a worn couch and stares at the vending machine across the room. The hum of the building is the only sound. She thinks about calling someone, her manager, a friend, someone who would tell her she did the right thing, or that she overreacted, or that Jackson Browne is Jackson Browne, and you don't just walk out on Jackson Browne at 3 in the morning in the middle of a session. But she doesn't call anyone. She just sits there. Downstairs, Jackson finally stops playing. The silence in the studio is startling. He looks up, blinks, glances toward the door. "Bonnie?" he says. The engineer doesn't move. "Where's Bonnie?" Jackson asks. "She left." Jackson stares at him. "What do you mean she left?" "She walked out. About 10 minutes ago." Jackson stands up from the piano, confused. "Why?" The engineer doesn't answer right away. He's been in this business long enough to know when someone is genuinely confused and when someone is pretending. Jackson is genuinely confused. That somehow makes it worse. "Man," the engineer says quietly, "she's been here since 9. Jackson looks at the clock on the wall. His face changes, not dramatically. Just a small shift, a tightening around the eyes, a slowing of breath. He sits back down, but not at the piano, on the edge of the couch against the wall. He rubs his face with both hands. "I didn't." He starts, then stops. The engineer says nothing. There's nothing to say. The damage is done, not because Jackson is a bad person, but because intention doesn't matter when someone has spent 6 hours being invisible. Jackson sits there for a long time. The tape reels are still. The lights are still on. The song he was chasing, the perfect version he could almost hear, suddenly doesn't matter as much. Upstairs, Bonnie is thinking about her father. He was a musician, too. Piano player, touring bands, late nights, missed birthdays, long silences at the kitchen table. She loved him. She understood him. But she also learned early that loving your work more than the people around you is a choice. And it's a choice that costs something. She doesn't want to become that. She doesn't want to be so deep inside her own head that she forgets the person standing next to her. She doesn't want to be the kind of artist who believes the music justifies everything. But she also knows that Jackson isn't a villain. He's not cruel. He's not trying to hurt anyone. He's just lost inside the thing he's trying to make. And maybe that's the danger. Not the cruelty, the blindness. She hears footsteps in the hallway. Slow, hesitant. Jackson appears in the doorway. He doesn't come in, just stands there, hands in his pockets, looking at her like he's seeing her for the first time all night. "I'm sorry," he says. Bonnie doesn't respond immediately. She looks at him, weighs the words, tries to figure out if he means them or if he just wants her to come back downstairs. "I lose track," he says, quieter now. "When I'm in it, I lose track of everything." "I know," she says. "That's not an excuse." "I know that, too." He steps into the room, but not too close. Sits on the arm of the chair across from her. He looks tired, not just from the session, from something older. "I don't know how to do this differently," he says. "I don't know how to care less." "I'm not asking you to care less," Bonnie says. "I'm asking you to see the people who are helping you." Jackson nods slowly. He understands the words, but she can see he doesn't fully understand the feeling behind them. Not yet. Maybe not for years. "You can't make something real if the people making it with you feel like ghosts," she says. He sits with that. Doesn't argue, doesn't defend himself, just listens. "I should have stopped earlier," he says finally. Yeah, I should have asked if you were okay. Yeah. He looks at the floor. I'm sorry. Bonnie exhales. She believes him. But belief isn't the same as repair. The session is over, not because the song is finished, because something between them shifted. Something that can't be unshifted. I'm going home, she says. Jackson nods. Okay. She stands, picks up her bag from the floor. He doesn't try to stop her, doesn't ask her to stay, to give it one more try, to finish what they started. He just watches her go, and this time he sees her. She walks down the hallway, past the studio, out the door into the cool Los Angeles night. The street is empty. The sky is starting to lighten, just barely, at the edges. She gets into her car, sits behind the wheel, and doesn't start the engine right away. She thinks about the song they were working on. It was beautiful, or it could have been. She doesn't know now. Maybe Jackson will finish it. Maybe he'll scrap it. Maybe years from now, someone will ask him about this session and he'll say he doesn't remember. But she'll remember, not because it was traumatic, not because Jackson was cruel, but because it was the night she learned that walking away isn't weakness. It's boundary. It's self-respect. It's the quiet refusal to let someone else's obsession race you. She starts the car and drives home through empty streets. Jackson stays in the studio until the sun comes up. He doesn't work on the song. He just sits there, in the space where the music was supposed to be, thinking about the difference between dedication and blindness. Thinking about the people who've sat in rooms with him, waiting, watching, slowly disappearing while he chased something he couldn't even name. He thinks about his own teachers, the musicians he admired, the ones who treated their bands like family and the ones who treated them like furniture. He always thought he was the first kind. Tonight he's not so sure. The engineer leaves around 5. Jackson stays, not because he needs to, because he doesn't know what else to do. When he finally walks out into the morning light, the air is cool and clean. The city is waking up. People are starting their days. He gets into his car and sits there, hands on the wheel, staring at nothing. He doesn't call Bonnie, doesn't send flowers or apologies or explanations. He knows somehow that this isn't something you fix with gestures. It's something you fix by changing, and change takes time. Years later, people who know both of them will hear pieces of this story. Some will say Bonnie overreacted. Some will say Jackson was just being an artist. Some will say it was nothing, just a bad session, the kind of thing that happens when creative people work together. But Bonnie will know it was more than that. It was the moment she learned that being in the room isn't enough. You have to be seen. You have to be respected. You have to be treated like your time, your energy, your presence matters. And Jackson will know it too. He'll carry it quietly, the memory of a woman walking out of a studio at 3 in the morning because he forgot she was there. He'll think about it when he's working with other musicians, when he feels the obsession taking over, when he starts to lose track of the people around him. He'll remember the sound of the door closing, soft, not angry, just final. And maybe that will be enough to make him stop, to look up, to ask, "Are you okay? Do you need a break?" Should we call it? Maybe not every time, but sometimes, and sometimes is better than never. The song they were working on that night never gets finished. Jackson tries a few more times, but it doesn't come together. It's like something essential is missing. He can't figure out what. He shelves it. Bonnie goes on to make records that define a generation. Her voice, her guitar, her refusal to be anything other than exactly who she is, people feel it. They don't always know why, but they feel it. Jackson keeps writing songs that break people open, songs about longing and loss and the distance between who we are and who we want to be. People listen in dark rooms and cry without knowing why. They cross paths over the years, festivals, benefit concerts, backstage hallways. They're polite, kind even, but they don't work together again. Not because there's bitterness, but because some things don't need to be repeated. The memory of that session lives quietly in both of them. A small scar, not painful, but present. A reminder. For Bonnie, it's the night she chose herself, not loudly, not dramatically, just clearly. For Jackson, it's the night he learned that the cost of obsession isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's just a person you respect walking out of a room, and you don't even notice until it's too late. Neither of them talks about it publicly. There are no interviews, no tell-all moments, no dramatic retellings. It's just a thing that happened. A 3 a.m. session in a studio in Los Angeles in 1973. A woman who walked out, a man who didn't notice, and the silence that followed. But the silence mattered. Because silence is where understanding begins, where regret settles, where change, if it's going to happen, starts to take root. Years later, someone asks Bonnie in an interview what the hardest lesson she ever learned was. She thinks for a moment and says that you can love the work and still protect yourself. That leaving the room doesn't mean you're weak. It means you know what you're worth. The interviewer asks if there's a story behind that. Bonnie smiles, just a little. Yeah, she says. But it's not mine to tell. And she leaves it there. Jackson, in his own interview years later, is asked what he wishes he'd done differently early in his career. He's quiet for a long time. Then he says, I wish I'd looked up more. I wish I'd seen the people who were there with me. I thought the music was the only thing that mattered. But people matter more. The interviewer asks if he's talking about anyone specific. Jackson shakes his head. Just everyone, he says. And maybe that's the truth. Maybe it wasn't just Bonnie. Maybe it was everyone who sat in a room with him, waiting to be seen. Everyone who stayed too long because they didn't know it was okay to leave. Everyone who thought that being patient meant being invisible. The session at 3 a.m. in a Los Angeles studio didn't make the history books. It didn't change the industry. It didn't become a legend people tell at dinner parties. But it changed two people, quietly, slowly, in ways they didn't fully understand until much later. Bonnie learned that walking out isn't betrayal, it's honesty. Jackson learned that brilliance without awareness is just another kind of loneliness. And maybe in the end, that's all any of us can hope for. Not perfection, not triumph. Just the slow, painful, necessary work of learning to see each other, to remember that the person across from you is not a tool or an audience or a reflection of your vision. They are a whole world, a whole life, a whole story. And if you forget that, even for a moment, even in pursuit of something beautiful, you risk losing something more valuable than any song. The sun comes up every morning. The city wakes. The studios fill with new people, new songs, new late nights. And somewhere in the machinery of it all, two people carry a memory of a moment when everything stopped. When a door closed softly. When someone chose themselves. And the music, which was supposed to be the only thing that mattered, became the thing that mattered least.